So the denizens of the heavenly planets, headed by Brahma, so they are offering prayers unto the Supreme Lord. So in continuation of their prayers, in this verse, they are offering respectful obeisances to the Lord along with his energy, internal energy, Mother Earth, Bhudevi. So here they are offering the prayer that, O Lord, you are the Supreme Father and this earth is your wife. So for the residential purposes of all the inhabitants, both moving and non-moving. And then we offer respectful obeisances unto you along with Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency, just as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the araṇi wood. So what is their big deal in putting a fire in the araṇi wood? An expert sacrificer. Every day we do हवन, हर रोज हम हवन करते हैं, तो हम लकड़ी डालते हैं, यज्ञ का जो लकड़ी है वो डालते हैं, फिर हम कैम्फर डालते हैं, फिर मैच बॉक्स से हम जला देते हैं. सो व्हाट इज बिग डील? इसमें क्या एक्सपर्टीज चाहिए होगा? एक्चुअली वैदिक सैक्रिफाइसेस में हवन में जलाने का जो तरीका है, नॉट यूजिंग मैच बॉक्स. सो दे यूज्ड टू इन्वोक द फायर in the araṇi wood through the Vedic mantras, that too expert Vedic mantras. So they never used to use matchbox or any other external devices. They used to invoke the fire using the Vedic mantras. That's why it is mentioned here that as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the araṇi wood. So there is a wood, there is a fire inside the every wood, but one has to bring out that fire through that Vedic mantras. So here, what is the big deal in the Lord lifting the Mother Earth? What is the energy which the Lord is actually invested in the earth? That Prabhupada explains here that the law of gravitation. So what we through the science we know the so-called theory of the law of gravitation, which was invented by the scientist Newton. So that's what Prabhupada here is mentioning, that the law of gravitation which sustains the planet is described herein as the potency of the Lord. Just imagine, without gravitation, how this entire world would have been. We are all flying, no control, there is no water, means nothing actually can sustain, nothing can actually, stand on the earth without any gravitation. So that how that gravitation power the earth has acquired, it is the potency of the Supreme Lord. So this potency is invested by the Lord in the way that an expert sacrificial brāhmaṇa puts a fire in araṇi wood by the potency of the Vedic mantras. So by this arrangement, the world becomes habitable for both moving and non-moving creatures. So because of this gravitational force, how we have all been able to live. So whether moving creatures, chara or achara, jangama or sthavara, so both kind of living entities are able to be habitable in this world. The conditioned souls who are residents of the material world are put in the womb of the mother in the same way the seed of a child is put by the father in the womb of the mother. So this concept Krishna very clearly and elaborately describes in the Bhagavad-gītā, wherein he says, Ham bija pradap pitā. So I am the seed giving father for all the living entities, those who are taking birth in this world. So that's there explained in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, this concept where Krishna elaborately describes, and Prabhupada has given wonderful purports. So 13th chapter, Krishna describes about nature, enjoyer and consciousness. So kshetra, kshetragna, all these, the entire concept of how to know the body, who is the knower of the body, all those things Krishna explains. Then in the 14th chapter, first verse, Krishna says, so far I have whatever explained, now I am explained, param bhuyam pravakshami gnānānaṁ gnānamuttamam. So I am going to explain gnānānaṁ gnānamuttamam. I am going to explain the supreme wisdom, gnānamuttamam, the supreme wisdom. And yajñātva munayas sarve param siddhim ito gata. Yajñātva, by knowing this, munayaha, the sages, they have attained to param siddhim ito gata. They have attained to the supreme perfection. So now I am going to explain that. So this verse, for this verse, Prabhupada writes in the Purport, from the 7th chapter to the end of the 12th chapter, Sri Krishna in detail reveals the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord himself is further enlightening Arjuna. If one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, this 14th chapter, the three modes of material nature. So that Prabhupada is referring here. If one tries to understand through philosophical speculation, he will never be able to understand this chapter. So if one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, he will come to an understanding of devotional service. In the 13th chapter, it was clearly explained that by humbly developing knowledge, one may possibly freed from material entanglement. It has also been explained that it is due to association with the modes of nature that the living entity is entangled in this world. So now in this chapter, Supreme Lord explains that those modes, the three modes of material nature, how they act, how they are bind, and how they give liberation. So how the three modes of material nature, how they act, how they bind the living entity, and also how they give liberation. So that's what is explained in this chapter that Prabhupada is mentioning here. The knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other chapters. Once a devotee asked me that, from the sixth chapter, Sankhya Yoga. So there also Krishna says in the sixth chapter, first verse itself, which verse, Prabhu? 7th verse. Yeah. Yes, it is 7th chapter, 2nd verse. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and nominal, by knowing which there shall remain nothing further to be known. So then Krishna is telling, in each chapter he is telling, actually this is the, like in the 9th chapter also, it's 9th chapter, the chapter itself is the guhyatamam, the most confidential knowledge. So how it is that Prabhu says, suppose if someone reads first, 2nd chapter, 3rd chapter, he will conclude that, okay, this the impersonal realization itself is the pure one. Or Karma Yoga, in the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga, Krishna explains that Karma Yoga is the best thing instead of doing nothing. Instead of doing karma, fruitive activities, it is Karma Yoga, offering results to Krishna. So how this person who is reading 3rd chapter will be able to understand actually. So Krishna is actually explaining the yoga ladder. So yoga ladder means from step 1, step 2, step 3. So in this 14th chapter again, Krishna is explaining that this Prabhupada here is mentioning that the knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other scriptures. So far in the other scriptures and other chapters of Bhagavad-gītā, the last 13 chapters. So by understanding this knowledge, various great sages attain perfection and transfer to the spiritual world. So three modes of material nature, that's what here is mentioned. This knowledge is far superior to the all other process of knowledge. Thus, for explained and knowing this may attain perfection. Thus it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. So this is the first verse where Krishna said that, I am going to explain param jnanam uttamam, and by knowing which muniyas they will attain siddhim. In the second verse, Krishna tells, idam jnanam upashritya mama sadharmyam agataha sargepi nopajayante pralayena vyatanticha. So by becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature, which is like my own nature. Transcendental nature, which is like Krishna's own nature. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation, nor disturbed at the time of dissolution. So then next verse Krishna says, Mama yonir mahad brahma tashmin garbham dadhamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, source of all living entities, any whether moving or immoving, whatever living entities, whatever created beings are there in this world, the source is what? Brahman, the total material substance. Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate. making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata. So, in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, as it is explained, how the creation process starts. It starts with the Mahavishnu glancing the Mahatattva. So then Mahatattva becomes agitated, then it becomes Pradhana, then all the required paraphernalia for the further creations are produced. Then using those paraphernalia, Brahma further creates the bodies of the living entities. So that's what Krishna here is saying, that in this verse, the total material substance that is called Brahman, what is referred to Brahman is actually Mahatattva, is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the birth of all beings, O son of Bharata. So in the next verse, Krishna further explains, which is quoted by Prabhupada in this purport of the today's verse, Sarva yoneshu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasham brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. So that's what Prabhupada here in the purport mentions about the conception of the Lord and the earth as father and mother is explained in Bhagavad-gītā 14.4. This is the verse. So purport Prabhupada mentions, in this verse it is clearly explained that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original father of all living entity. The living entities are combinations of material nature and the spiritual nature. Such living entities are seen not only on this planet but in every planet, even in the highest where Brahma is situated. So the living entities are combination of the material nature and spiritual nature. So what it means actually, combination of material nature and spiritual nature? Body and soul. So the body is the product of the material nature which Brahma creates, and soul which is a spiritual, which is indestructible. So that is the Krishna's ansha. Mamai vamsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. So everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth there are living entities. Even within the water and within fire. All these appearances are due to the mother material nature, and Krishna is seed-giving, and Krishna's seed-giving process. The purport is that the living entities, being impregnated in the material world, come out and form at the time of creation according to their past deeds. So how living entities particular body is given? It is based on the activities a living entity has performed in his previous life or in the previous lifetimes, many lifetimes, whatever it has been. With the living entity has done the activities. So Padma Purana states about how a living entity's particular body is given, or what is the process by which living entity enjoys or suffers the previous results of the previous sinful activities. So Padma Purana, there is a verse which states, Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bhijam falonmukham krayaneva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. So, aprarabdha phalam papam. Aprarabdha means the unfructified, are the sinful reactions which are not yet fructified. Aprarabdha phalam papam. Kutam bija falonmukam. And some are in the form of kutastha, in the form of a seed. And falonmukam means prarabdha karma, which we are actually enjoying at present. So, bija, aprarabdha and prarabdha. There are three stages of fructification of the sinful activities or any fruitive activity which a living entity has performed in the previous lifetimes. Then kramenaiva praliyeta. Praliyeta means they become fructified. Kramenaiva means gradually. Then Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. So the translation is that for those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified, that is prarabdha, in the stalk or in the form of a seed, that is kutastha or bija form, and then are gradually vanish. So whether it is bija form, prarabdha or aprarabdha, in whatever the stage a fruitive activity or sinful activity may be there, the reactions may be there, but the devotional service is so pure that all these things get vanquished. So in this verse, in the today's verse, what is mentioned that the sages are offering obeisances to the Lord along with his wife Bhudevi. So there basically they are referring to the Supreme Lord, that how merciful he is. That for the living entity's purpose, for us, for the reformation of our purpose, he has created this world. And whenever there is a difficulty, the Lord is personally coming and protecting, whether it is living entities or the source of their birth. Even in the first canto, where the discussion between Mother Earth in the form of a cow and Dharma in the form of a bull, the conversation is going on. So the bull in the Dharma is the form of religiosity in the form of a bull is inquiring from Mother Earth, what is the cause of your distress? Why are you so sad? Actually, to relieve the burden from your body, from the earth, the Supreme Lord has personally appeared, and he is ready to, time and again he appears and he vanquishes. So what is the reason? Why are you so sad now? Is it that the Supreme Lord has departed from this world? Is it the reason that the sinful activities of the general populace has increased? Is that the cause for your lamentation? So there again it is mentioned that the Supreme Lord, even Mother Earth, when it is burdened by the unnecessary impious living entities, the sinful living entities, so that time also Krishna personally comes and delivers or brings down the burden of the earth, the unnecessary burden which is there. So like here also they are mentioning that for the residential purposes of inhabitants, both moving and moving, this earth is your wife and you are the Supreme Father. So like in the verse it is mentioned, saṁsthāpayaināṁ jagatāṁ sa-tasthuṣāṁ, saṁsthāpayaināṁ. Like Bhagavad-gītā says, dharma saṁsthāpanārthāya sambhavami yuge yuge. So to establish dharma, I appear again and again. So here it is saṁsthāpayaināṁ. That means in the translation Prabhupada, in the word-to-word meaning Prabhupada mentions, saṁsthāpayaināṁ means rise this earth. So rise this earth, in one sense it's protecting this earth, which was put in the nether region of the hellish planets, the lower planets by Hiranyaksha. So the Supreme Lord has personally appeared and is lifting. And sages here, another principle they are explaining is that the Lord is never alone. So when they are offering obeisances, they are offering to the Supreme Lord and along with the Mother Earth. So Mother Earth is actually nothing but the internal potency of the Lord. If you go to any Sri Vaishnava temple, so you find any Vishnu temple. So you find Vishnu deity, Mulavar, whatever the deity may be, the Utsavar deities will be Vishnu and Sridevi and Bhudevi, accompanied by his two eternal consorts, Sridevi and Bhudevi. So that Bhudevi is the Mother Earth, the predominating deity of this earth. So now in one of the lectures, Prabhupada mentions about how these sinful reactions actually fructify and how a devotee we can completely free from this, whether it is in kutastha or bija, prarabdha, aprarabdha karma, how a devotee can become free. So Prabhupada mentions that. Prabhupada is giving a example of the cholera disease. Cholera was like that time it used to be a very deadly disease. If it comes, it used to affect the entire village. It was a chronical disease. So cholera means people would vomit and lose motion will happen continuously, and they'll become either very weak or they'll die. So Prabhupada is referring to that. After 2 or 3 days of cholera appears, it takes some time. Just like if you sow a seed of a tree, immediately it does not become a tree and give its fruits, delivers its fruit. It takes some time. Therefore, imperceptibly or knowingly or unknowingly, we are doing so many sinful activities. So they are in the seedling stage, they are growing stage. Then when we suffer, that is called prarabdha. Prarabdha means now receive the result, which we are actually enjoying or suffering at this present life. That is known as prarabdha. So in this way, we are creating, and when we are enjoying prarabdha karma, we are also further creating some actions and reactions. So there further it will go and accumulate into the kutastha in the bija form. So that's what Prabhupada is mentioning, that we suffer prarabdha karma. So in this way we are sowing some seeds that will take its reaction either in this body or another body. So it takes time to fructify. So, but if you act in Krishna consciousness, then it is just like fried seed. Fried seed, if you sow in a land, it will not fructify. Fried seed. So this is fried seed. So for a proper tree to be planted for further growing of the plant, it has to be enriched with some nutrients. But if it is fried, it cannot fructify. It will not give rise to another plant. So the process of devotional service is so great, is so potent, that even whether it is the karma, previous lifetime karma, whether it is in the form of a seed, whether it is in the form of aprarabdha, or whether it is in the form of prarabdha, all the things get vanquished. So what does that actually mean? A devotee becomes completely free from all the sinful reactions. So another place, Prabhupada mentions that at the time of initiation, actually what happens? At the time of initiation, when we are surrendering to the spiritual master, and when we are taking oath in front of the spiritual master, keeping the deities, fire, Vaishnavas as sakshi, as an evidence, we take oath. So that time what happens is that the spiritual master takes charge of all the previous sinful activity of the disciple. That means those who are in the seed form or those who are aprarabdha karmas, they are completely taken back by the spiritual master. But there are still some karmas. If that is the case, why do a devotee still suffer? Why do a devotee still face some problems or hindrances in devotional life? If that is the case, you should immediately be able to taste the pure nectar of the devotional service. But why devotees suffer? Even though the aprarabdha kutastha or aprarabdha karmas are taken by the spiritual master, there are karmas which are prarabdha karmas. So what is the one visible manifestation of prarabdha karma is our own body. So because we have this material body, which is the product of the prarabdha karma, visible manifestation of the prarabdha karma, so that takes time. So the tribulations which we suffer, the three kinds of tribulation, tapatrayas, adhyatmika, adi bhautika, adi daivika kleshas, that is because of the result of this material body. So that is the reason why a devotee, even after taking initiation, even after surrendering, he may have to suffer. Then what happens? Okay, previous kutastha and aprarabdha karmas are taken back by the spiritual master. But in the course of executing our devotional service, sometimes we may further commit some activities, whether pious or impious, both will bind to us. So that will actually slow down that even the process of purification. Prabhupada gives an example. If you light a wood, if you put a fire into the wood on one side, so generally if it is dried wood, so it will, in few minutes it will completely burn off. It will burn the entire wood into the ashes. But what happens if you put a fire in one side, on the other side if you start pouring water into the wood, what happens? The process of burning becomes slowed down. Because the more the moisture, the more the time it will take for the fire to burn the wood. So even after taking initiation, if we perform any sinful activity, whether pious or sinful activity, both, so that will slow down the purification, that will further result into some more complications. That's the reason it is said we may have to take how many more lifetimes we don't know, even after surrendering to a pure devotee. So but if you are serious enough, we should, if you perform the devotional service, if you perform the process of sadhana bhakti perfectly, then within this life, that's what Prabhupada actually assures, that you just follow whatever I have said, then you going back to God, it is guaranteed. So this process, even Prahlad Maharaj explains in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So Prahlad Maharaj, in the 7th canto, the Lord Narasimha appears, personally protected Prahlad Maharaj from the wrath of his father. So after this father's death, when great demigods or great personalities like Brahma, Shiva, even Mother Lakshmi was not daring to go in front of Lord Narasimha to pacify him. But Prahlad Maharaj was pushed front to go and pacify Lord Narasimha. So Prahlad Maharaj goes and he offers prayers in glorification of Lord Narasimha. So in one of the prayers, Prahlad Maharaj mentions that Naivatmana prabhur ayam nijalabha purno manam janat avidusha karuno vrinithe yadyajjano bhagavate vidadhita manam tachatmane pratimukasya yatta mukashrihi. So Prahlad Maharaj is offering prayer to Lord Narasimha, and he is mentioning here that what is the result of devotional service. What happens if a devotee performs his devotional service, his sadhana bhakti perfectly? What will happen is that, so first he is glorifying the Lord, then he is coming to what will happen if a devotee performs devotional service perfectly. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always fully satisfied in himself. Nija labha purno. Is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee, for the Lord does not need service from anyone. So, to give an example, in the same translation example Prahlad Maharaj mentions, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. Pratimukasya yatha mukashri. If someone decorates his face very beautifully, the reflection which is seen on the mirror, that also looks beautiful. So that's the result of devotional service. What happens by performing devotional service? Actually, Lord doesn't need our service. He is Nijalabha Purna, is fully satisfied in himself. But by offering service to the Lord, we are getting benefited. Just like if you decorate your face, the reflection also looks beautiful. Similarly, if we perform devotional service, that result, that benefit is given back to the devotee. So that's a very nice analogy Prahlad Maharaj is quoting here. By offering devotional service, his devotee who is actually getting benefited, not the Supreme Lord. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So what is the process of Cheto Darpana Marjana? Mirror. Because now we are trying to decorate. Actually, decorating the face represents devotional service to the Lord, and reflection of the face represents the living entities in this world, who are amshas of the Supreme Lord. Mamaiva amsha, jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha. So as amshas of the Supreme Lord, we are all his reflections, maybe in a very minute quantity. But of course, we are all reflections of the Supreme Lord. We have all the qualities which the Lord possesses. Sat, Chit, Ananda. All these qualities which the Lord has in unlimited quantity, we have in a very minute, limited quantity. That's why the living entities are reflection. So, but now what happens? In this material world, present condition is what? That reflection is not visible. Why? Because there is a dust on the mirror. So that mirror has to be cleansed. That is the process of Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So if that mirror is properly cleansed, very thoroughly cleansed, automatically the devotee will be able to see the effect of devotional service. That means the reciprocation of the Lord. Reciprocation, how the Lord is helping a devotee, how the Lord is giving realizations about devotional service, how a devotee is able to enjoy. Actually, devotional service is Susukam Kartum Avyayam. It is very, very joyfully performed. It is not performed with a lot of difficulty, with great hardship. It is very joyfully performed, but we are not able to see that joyness, we are not able to see that pleasure. It's because there is a dust. There is a connection gap between the face and the mirror. So only that connection gap has to be removed. So here, because Mother, the sages are glorifying that quality of the Supreme Lord, who is so merciful for the benefit of the devotees. He is ready to come any number of times. He is ready to reciprocate. He is ready to help them. How he is actually helping, how he is actually re-establishing Mother Earth. So he is establishing so that living entities can perform devotional service. They should be given an opportunity for them to perform devotional service. So in one conversation, Prabhupada brings out one important principle for a devotee. So there was a guest who had come to meet Srila Prabhupada. So was asking about Buddhist philosophy. He was asking too many questions, in fact. Then he also asked about Buddhist. Prabhupada, he asked one question. Prabhupada tries to answer, he will jump into some other question. So he was not actually properly, hearing to Prabhupada's reply. So then finally he comes to understand discussion about Buddha philosophy. Then he asked about guessed. Buddha taught very similar things to what Gita taught also, didn't he? Are there agreements there? Agreements in certain places what Buddha taught and what Gita teaches? So Prabhupada, do you follow this Buddha? Because he was asking only questions. He was not even actually properly waiting for the reply. So Prabhupada in this conversation replies, do you follow this Buddha philosophy? Guest, no, I don't follow exactly as such. Then you simply talk of him. Why are you simply talking about Buddha? You practice Buddha if you appreciate him. You give up everything like Buddha and meditate. But that you will not do. Then what is the talking of useless talking about these different philosophies? Do something. Either you believe Buddha or Jesus Christ or Krishna. Do something. Don't talk simply. Lord Buddha is very nice. He gave up his kingdom in a very youthful life. So he was a prince. He thought this entire material creation, it's all nonsense. Let me meditate. So do like that. That is the disease. We don't do anything. We talk much of this, that, but do nothing. We talk about so many philosophies, but do nothing, doesn't follow anything. Prabhupada is saying, at least follow something. Then Prabhupada tells, either you follow Jesus Christ, Lord Buddha or Krishna, it doesn't matter, but do it perfectly. So then Prabhupada tells, jack of all trade and master of none. So it's an English proverb. Jack of all trades means one tries to become, one tries to acquire knowledge of different subject matters. This philosophy, this technique, that technique, and master of none, without acquiring perfection in any of them. Yes, there are some people, those who are having multi-talented people. So they want to understand so many things, so many philosophies, so many different subject matters, so many different things going on in this world, but not mastering any one of them. But Prabhupada is saying this is not good. So for devotees, that is the Prabhupada is saying, be master of something. It doesn't make any difference. Be master of something. Accept something, properly understand, become master of that. There is no use in going from this subject matter to the other subject matter, or for this person from this philosophy to another philosophy. So devotee has to become at least master in something. So then Prabhupada further mentions that mastering, simple way in this Kali Yuga for mastering the process is devotional service. So there is one way where by learning that method, you can learn all other methods. Like Krishna also tells in Bhagavad-gītā, how he can be approached is that bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yasyāsmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gnatva vishatetad anantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only through devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Then another place it is said that yagnatva, by knowing this, all other things become known automatically. Which is that verse? I am not able to recall. By knowing which, all other subject matter becomes known. Okay, so that's what. So by trying to understand, if you try to understand Krishna, another analogy Prabhupada gives is that if you try to water the plant, its leaves, its fruit, its branch, different branches, flowers, instead of that, if you directly go and water the root of the plant, automatically entire plant or entire tree gets nourished. Similarly, if one tries to understand Krishna, everything else becomes automatically known to a devotee. So devotee need not have to try to become, jack of all, master of none. Devotee just try to become expert in devotional service, try to perform devotional service nicely, then automatically all other things is revealed. That is the process of bhakti. Automatically revealed. Swayam heva spuradyataha. Swayam heva, by automatically Krishna becomes revealed to that devotee, but through the process of devotional service. So in this verse, the sages are offering prayers to the Supreme Lord along with his eternal consort, his internal potency, Bhudevi, and they are referred to here as the father and mother. Says it's a fact. Krishna is the supreme father. Aham bija pradapita. Is the one who is actually is the cause of all causes. So, but then people in this world, especially those who are Mayavadis, so they refer to Mother Parvati as Jagadamba and or Bhavani, and Lord Shiva as Bhava or Kailash Nath. So why is that Mother Parvati is called as Jagadamba? Amba means mother. Jagadamba means the mother of whole creation, for whole cosmic manifestation. So it's because, Brahma Samhita, Kshiram Yati Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat. So in that verse, Brahma is actually is glorifying Lord Shiva, that Shiva is actually nothing but Lord Krishna himself. So that's why Shiva Tattva is little complicated subject matter for ordinary people to understand. How is that Shiva is Krishna and is not Krishna? So like milk and curd. So curd, you cannot say curd is different from milk, and you cannot say curd is actually milk. It is a product, it's a transformation. Kshiram yati dadhara vikara vishesha yogat. It's a special kind of a transformation. Vikara means transformation. So Krishna himself in the Guna Avtaras. So for that purpose, when he has to come in contact with the material nature directly, so Krishna doesn't do that. He doesn't want to interact directly. So he comes in the form of Lord Shiva, so that he can interact with the material nature and increase the progeny, or living entities can come out. That's why in one sense when people say Parvati and Shiva are the father and mother, yes, of course, they are true, they are not wrong, but that's not the complete knowledge. So primary creator is Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. Secondary creator is Brahma, who facilitates the creation of the bodies of the living entity. And then tertiary creators is Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati, those who actually give birth to the living entities. That's why Mother Parvati is known as Jagadamba, the mother of the whole universe. Why? Because the living entities actually take birth from her. But that's not the complete understanding. For Mayavadis or those with poor fund of knowledge, they doesn't go to the root. They just take some part and they understand and they want to establish that as the fact. The complete information, as the sages mentioned here, is that the Supreme Lord as the father and Mother Earth as the mother. Mother Earth as the mother, or as is mentioned here as mātaraṁ pitā, father and mother of all the living entities. With this, I'll stop here. Grantara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki.